David, I want to tell you one thing.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
This used to be the Bismarck Hotel, where the Cook County Democratic Party under Richard J. Daley operated. So this smoke is the last vestiges coming down from the backroom deals. So it's just woofing down from the 9th floor where the Cook County Democratic Party used to operate.
You know, the other thing that I need to talk to Brad about for next year is I want walk-on music. Did I have walk-on music? It's so cool.
You are. This is what set a relationship off. You're starting jealous again.
So, Mr. Mayor, let's talk about Washington. If you were
Let's not and say we did.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
If you were in the White House now, if you were chief of staff now, how would you game out the final hours of what I assume is moving toward a deal to avoid default?
Well, first of all, I think that's already worked out. It's basically in short order. I think the Republicans in the House have capitulated, and I think that's going to play out. I actually would be meeting immediately to figure out January and February, not the next 48 hours. I think they're going to work that out, and the problem is, how do you, now, in a pure political sense, I think the Republicans have done more to do damage to the Republican Party than the Democrats could ever envision to inflict on them. We were never that good. They've done an incredible job. So this year I'm contributing to the Republican Party to keep it up. It's going to be a whole new thing for me. That said, this is actually here. The problem for the White House, without now putting politics aside, is whether you think, I don't think the economy was actually moving at the pace that it could. This has probably had more damage there, and that actually impacts the president, the Democrat, it impacts the country purely on that loss of confidence.
The second term was supposed to be about economic restoration, and as much as the president decries crisis management, he has to own some of that if we never get past this.
There's no doubt about that, and so I would be immediately figuring out, and I happen to think this, there's more consensus on some core issues of government spending, tax reform, and even in some areas of entitlement. I think it requires two things. One, neither party accepts the demands of the extreme. And two, you got to go for what I would call as a single or a double, but not try to do the grand bargain. The only time in the political system in the last 8 years, or 10 years, that anybody's achieved a grand bargain is when a single party runs both the White House and Congress, and both chambers. George Bush did it with prescription drugs, and President Obama did it with healthcare and financial reform. And so if you want a grand bargain, government today, because of the size, scope, and scale of the issues, has to be under one-party rule. And if you don't want it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You can get good deals and good agreements and move us forward, but they got to be in the kind of bunt single or double place, but not. And that's all I'm going to do for sports metaphor.
Right.
I got some ballet metaphors, but that's about it.
Which we'll get to. But where I thought you were going with that answer was actually, I thought, analogous to some of your initial concerns about health care, that you thought the politics were too difficult. You have said that you were wrong, that the president didn't agree with you, and yet you were happy he did what he did. But as you look at all the problems with the rollout of health care reform now, and you look back at the fact that health care was a party line vote. It was not something that was done on the order of a grand bargain. Is that partially why the difficulties have been there?
No, look, I mean, Apple just rolled out a new software thing. They had to make a change. They'll work through the glitches and the problems on the exchanges. The fact is, and I bet you NBC have seen this and Comcast has seen it, we've seen it at the city level. Healthcare costs are coming down because both insurance companies and hospitals are now having to make radical changes. The first impact of healthcare reform in the first 2 years is already working. And I think over the next day, you will see for the first time in over what you've never seen for the last 30 years, you're going to see, at least for the next 10 years, cost control, because the marketplace and the effects of what was done on the public side is driving tremendous change in how you price healthcare. Where the challenge is, which is unfortunate for the president, where the states have refused to set up their own exchanges, and not just the own exchanges, they're actually hostile to enrollment. You may never get the full universal coverage that the president wanted. You will get the full cost containment he set out, but the coverage piece, in my view, may be lagging. That's just, we're on the first set of months, so you're asking me. I had my own view. To his strengths, I will say, he knew, I said, if you have a big agenda, Healthcare, when you look at what happened to Clinton, Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, Nixon, Carter, going way back, it is a time sink. You have this big agenda. You've got to decide, are you willing to spend it all with a likelihood, and how much are you willing to do, and make a choice. And he always wanted me to be honest with him, and I was straight up about it.
So one more national political question. So you've said a couple things. One, you think that there's some opportunity if the Republicans feel battered and beaten in the polling today, 74% blame the Republicans for this crisis that we're in the middle of. So that's short-term political gain for the Democrats. You've said you think Republicans maybe look at this and come to do some business with the president. But look ahead to the midterm race or to 2016. What do you make of a Ted Cruz and his impact and
not much
the party?
I think let me do two things. Having lived through, this is now I'm telling my age, in the White House in '95 during the government shutdown, when I was referred to as non-essential, so I was sent home. That's a joke, relax.
All right.
One, the Republicans were so damaged that by the summer of '96, right before Bill Clinton was getting on a train actually to come to Chicago for his convention, they sent him a minimum wage increase, Kennedy-Kassenbaum portable health care, and welfare reform after 2 vetoes. He signed 3 major bills, got on a train, came here, and the rest is history. Because Newt Gingrich and the Republicans realized we got to cut our losses, we got to figure out we can show we can govern, threw Bob Dole over the side, and they quickly, after having fought those 3 issues, sent the president exactly what he wanted on welfare reform. He vetoed 2 bills, gave in on the minimum wage without any small business real additions, and sent Kennedy-Kassenbaum portable health care. Now, differences between now and then? John Boehner isn't Newt Gingrich on Newt Gingrich's worst days. 2, that was a presidential election. This is a midterm in the 6th year of a presidency. I don't know if John Boehner has the capacity of a leader to take his caucus and say, if we don't change, we're going to be a minority. He hasn't shown it yet, so I'm not sure he can, but Newt had the leadership to, having led the government shutdown, to reverse course and lead his caucus to cut a deal, and they held on to the majority in '96, even when Bill Clinton won. That's number one. I think going past 2016 and longer, and I say this as a reformer in the sense that I have done what I think is wrong on this basis. We have become so good at redistricting, and I've practiced this craft, so I'm just telling you. Well, no, in this sense, we've done it here, and that's part of the kind of battle I had with Tom DeLay when they tried to do what they did in Texas. The system is set up for the voters to pick their representatives. But because of technology and politics, representatives are now picking their voters. And that's a fundamental upside down of how the system is structured. Everything we've learned from 7th grade and 8th grade on is voters will go to the polls and they pick who they want to represent them in Congress. And because of this technology, voting habits, geography, how people gather together of like mind, we can now basically pick who we want to vote for us. And that's really where the system is. When you have what used to be 100 seats in the House, rougher, give or take, marginal, that comes down to 20 or 30, and everything else is decided on primary day on both sides. The political system is incapable of representing the will of the people. And that has to be fixed. And I say that as somebody who's practiced that craft himself. I feel like I'm at a self-help AA meeting. I'm on my step number 1. And thanks, David. I really feel better about myself now.
It's funny, I feel like Tony Robbins. So it's all working. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about Chicago. Mm-hmm. When you wake up in the morning and you look at challenges that you face as mayor, at this point, what troubles you the most?
Well, I don't look at it that way. So let me start there. I look at where our opportunities are, and I also look at what we have to focus on for challenges. One, The Economist magazine did a survey last year of 150 cities worldwide. And they noted that Chicago was the only city worldwide, in North America, that will move into the top 10 ranking, 9th, for economic competitiveness. One, highly skilled, highly educated, highly motivated workforce. We got to stay on that. That's the number one thing. By the way, 35% of the city of Chicago's workforce has a 4-year college degree or better. In the United States, it's 27%. We got to keep growing that and never let any other city catch up. Number one goal. Number two, we have an incredible modern infrastructure, mainly in the transportation. O'Hare is the most connected airport in all of North America to any city in the world or any city in the United States, weather permitting. But you can get anywhere. And we also have it with our mass transit system. More people take the CTA in Chicago than take all of Amtrak nationwide all year. And we got to keep investing in our mass transit system. Now, that strategy, and also they cited, if I can, that in the public sector in Chicago, we actually do what we say we're going to do. It gives people confidence. And confidence is the most important stimulus you can have economically. I ran for mayor because I wanted to fix our educational system from pre-K all the way through our community college system. That's why I wanted to be mayor and get that right. And we have some results to show that. Now, every day I start up with is I also get an update from my police department. And the two things that I think are the challenges for the city. We're making great progress on, we had a startup in the technology sector of the economy every day last year. I told you what the economist said. World Bank has a report on our community college and college to career program is the best skill development program they've seen in the United States and even in the world. I get a report every morning from the police department of what happened overnight. And I've made a habit, if I call every mother, it's usually a mother or grandmother, of every child, one way or another, who's been a victim of violence, whether they're in the hospital, back at home, or never made it. It is the hardest call where a parent, has to be comforted because they couldn't do the basic thing of being a parent, which is to protect their child. It's the hardest call I make every day. And not every day, but the days I make them. The second thing, and we're talking about today, I'm trying to get a 3-year minimum for all gun crimes, so we don't have these people back on the street wreaking havoc in our neighborhoods. We're majorly increasing our after-school programs, summer jobs. Even when the federal government and the state governments have cut back, we had a record year, 20,000 kids in summer jobs, which I will like to note. Summer jobs, working, paycheck, mentors, not one child of the 20,000 was a victim of gun violence or any violence this summer. Not one. Now, I believe fundamentally investing in early childhood, pre-K, all the things that make a city great, mainly in the education area. If we don't fix our pension problem, you can't do that. We're going to be in a position of either pension payments or police officers, pension payments or park programs, pension payments or a school principal. I think that's the wrong choice. And what's happened in Washington is basically, even when they get a deal, let's assume they get a deal, basically Washington pays interest on the debt, Social Security and Medicare, and national defense. They don't do anything anymore. They cut back Head Start. They're cutting back summer jobs. They don't do we lost $1 million this year on after-school programs, even when I was increasing the city number. If we don't fix this, and it has to be done fairly and equitably, City of Chicago is going to pay interest on the debt, pension payments, and public safety. We're going to become a mini version of everything that people laugh at in Washington right now. I think that's wrong for a city. And I think it's right now, cities are leading the world for their creativity in economic policy, public policy, education, infrastructure. That's not how to lead. And by example, I think it will actually steal from the future, which is the children of the city of Chicago.
One last area, but to follow on the idea of innovation. Talk a little bit about, and it may be in dealing with crime, as you've had to deal with the murder rate, or other ways that you use data, analytics. I mean, the Obama re-election team heralded for their use of analytics. How are you doing it as a mayor in a big city like this?
Well, that's like I don't want, you got other people to bring on. I could go on for hours about that. Well, one of the things, we do it on all types of levels. First of all, looking at data. I can be honest. I had my weekly meeting with our police superintendent and the first deputy. But you could look at predictive analysis, and one of the things, we are modernizing 311. Just give me one example. And the whole purpose is now, if you call for our first top 5 functions, tree trimming, other types of big services, we give you, like a FedEx or UPS, a code. So when the next time you call, you give them your code. So you're not just back in the queue and you never get your service. You can actually have accountability in there. But we're modernizing it also and spending a lot of money on technology. Haven't done it in about 2 decades. So we can look at certain calls in neighborhoods and start being predictive about certain crimes or other trends that happen. And that 311 data will provide us the ability, through a whole analysis, to see certain things. We've made a major reduction this year in shootings are down 22%, homicides, crime is overall down 15%, last year 9%. Still calling a mother, regardless of all that data. The way we did it, or one of the tools, was we took an analysis of 2010, 11, and 12. Shooting, homicide, robbery. What were the worst areas? Then we took 2012, ran it against 2010, 11, and 12. And basically, 3% of the city, so think of it as 20 zones, each about 20 blocks, just to be at 10,000 feet here. And that represented about 3% of the geography of the city, drove 22% of all shootings and homicides. And so we've saturated those areas with foot patrol. While we've seen a reduction overall in the city, those impact zones are double the progress we're seeing citywide. Homicides are down 40-some%, shootings are down 45%, and overall crime is down like 50. And this moves around, obviously, but 53, 54%. Through a foot patrol, old school, every cop has 5 blocks, they work it. But we analyzed where the worst situation was and then saturated it with intense policing from about 7 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning. That's how we use data to make a decision on crime. So to be honest, we do it on education and all types of things like that too.
So many examples. A lot more to discuss, but we're out of time for now.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
And the smoke ended.
Yeah.
See you later, buddy.